This is just for grouping. 69 lines. Oh, sorry. 79 lines before we... Wait, where's the cons? 90 lines before we get to the actual code.
So React Table is now called TanStack Table, and it's going to ship with all adapters.
Angular coming
all the
soon.
Frameworks. Angular. Yeah. You want to work on the Angular adapter? Come talk to me. Okay?
No one wants to work on an Angular adapter. Tanner is a wonderful open source developer and a good friend. He built React Query, React Table, and a bunch of other super helpful libraries in the React ecosystem. I am really hyped about this talk. A bunch of people have been telling me to react to it. The twist that I'm going to spoil now is he's moving away from his solutions being framework specific for React and trying to build primitives that other frameworks can consume and have adapters built for. So with the table, he wants it to work in Svelte, React, Vue, Solid, and every other like upcoming and modern major framework. Same with React Query with the new TanStack Query stuff. This talk is focused a lot on that, and I'm really excited for it. So without further ado, let's hear what Tanner has to say. What a ruined dramatic moment.
All right. I'm excited to be here. I have a lot to cover. I'm jet lagged and tired, but like I got to bring the energy, so help me out. Like we got to bring the energy, okay? I have some t-shirts I got to throw out really quick and some people who are going to help me. So like, let's just get to it. Here, take that one too. Anybody want a t-shirt?
I'm trying to fix the levels. There's not much I can do because that's the video itself.
Gets this shirt. Yeah, it was exactly the person. Perfect. I'm out. I'm sorry. That's it. All right. I hope you like Jurassic Park. You might not by the end of my talk because...
Why didn't I get a shirt, Tanner?
You'll see. My name's Tanner Lindsley, and I'm here because I love React, and I love open source. And I'm kind of addicted to it. It's a bad addiction, but it's a lot of fun. Normally, I'd be talking about React Query today. I'm not going to do that. I'd rather talk about, take it back old school, the very first library I ever built that kind of took off, and that was React Table. I want to talk about the last 5 years of React Table and some things that I've learned through this crazy process of building an open source library. And maybe you can apply some of it to what you do, or maybe not. And it's just a fun talk. But we got to go all the way back even further to 2015. I was invited to co-found a startup called Nozzle with some friends. And Nozzle is basically Google, but against Google. We are reverse crawling Google search results at scale, talking like billions of results.
Nozzle's one of those products that I absolutely should be using, and am not, and I need to get on that. So saying this here is a reminder. Also, yeah, his slide transitions are nuts.
Today, we're measuring them and extracting out all of the data and just shoving that into BigQuery, believe it or not, and serving it back to SEOs and marketers who want that data. It's pretty cool. Part of that product is that we have to do a lot of data visualization, a lot of querying, and of course, a lot of tables kind of coming together now. I wish our tables in 2015 looked like this. They did not. We were working with a little bit lesser tech here. Not quite like this, but this is where it all starts, right? Everybody starts with the...
That's such a good scene. Oh, the dinosaur, like Jurassic Park scene with the... so tasteful.
HTML5 table, because it's awesome. Like, it really is a great element. Try building a table with divs, and you'll appreciate it. We needed to ship and sell and just, hopefully, like Swizek Teller was able to teach us, like, have an opportunity to improve. So it was like, go, go, go as fast as we could. We were using Angular at the time. Boom. And we were using tools like ng-grid and UI-grid, which honestly were fantastic. They were built in Angular, like for Angular, great integration, and eventually got to use ag-grid, which is also an amazing tool. There we go, we got some ag-grid fans here. So something happened we weren't expecting.
If I recall, ag-grid actually sponsors him now, which is super cool.
This framework shows up out of nowhere, and it's like, this is it. Like, this is where you need to be. And we're like, okay, let's do it. Investment time. We moved everything over to React. I'm talking like everything in like 3 weeks. And then we got there and we're like, crap, we don't have a data grid library. And I was like, wait. AG Grid has a React adapter. We're like, we are saved. And guess what? We were. Like, we were able to migrate and just keep using AG Grid, and it was honestly super cool.
Yeah, 3 weeks is nuts for a full rewrite from anything, really. But from Angular to React, that's nuts. Good shit.
But we did run into some little issues here and there. We were working with a React component. You know, it's just React. Everything's just components. But something was interesting. Under the hood, we noticed AG Grid was not rendering using React. It was shipping with its own custom DOM manipulation engine, which explained why it was so crazy fast, right? But in the process of shipping that crazy fast engine, React kind of got burned a little bit. There wasn't the level of integration we were looking for. Now, I'm really happy that as of like today, AG Grid has like an integrated React render, and it's amazing. Niall from AG Grid is going to talk about it like here in like a few minutes, so stick around if you want to hear about that. But this is way back in 2017. Like, that did not exist yet, and we needed a table library immediately. So obviously, I started working on React Table. It was a single component. It was 100% React. And I was able to offload like a lot of stuff to React, all the rendering, the state management. I mean, we were still using this.setState, but it was pretty good still. We even had smaller bundles because React was doing so much for us. And we released it like thinking it was just going to kind of be whatever. And React Tables started to grow. People wanted tables and React to work together. And so while we were loving the success that we were having over on the NPM downloads chart, a storm was brewing on the GitHub repo in the form of just issues. Tons of issues. We were getting inundated with issues, and they all looked like this. Can I move pagination? Give me custom props. Can I use my own row component? Can I use whatever CSS and JS library is out this week? Like, can I do anything with the markup? And the reality is that I couldn't answer any of those questions. I didn't have, the options to do that. Honestly, it was just this huge pile of crap. Like, it was terrible. And I did the only thing that I knew how to do, and that's add more props. Any guesses how many props I added to React Table version 6? Come on. 137.
Oh, God. This is such a good framing. This is a phenomenal talk. The slides are great. The storytelling is great. There's like a very clear narrative to follow here. And this hits really hard. This is a good thing to make a slide out of as you describe the story.
Props. To do everything. They're all right there. Like to like customize every little thing about.
You could say I'm giving a lot of props to Tanner right now. But I'm just
React Table, because it was just a single component. I was drowning. I honestly was drowning. Luckily, I didn't die. But thankfully, while I was drowning in my misery, my friend Kent was over building a new library.
Yeah, 137 props without TypeScript. Oh, God. Yeah, that's very scary.
Called Downshift. Downshift was a library for building drop-downs and autocompletes. But it was really interesting. It didn't render any markup for you. It just gave you the state, gave you the API, and you had to hook it up yourself. I saw this, and I was like, this is the answer. This is how I'm going to solve this problem. Immediately, I dove into React Table source code. I was like, rip out all this stuff. We're going to go with this API approach, like invert control to the user to render everything themselves. And some people were like, you're going to make me render my own table? And I'm like, yeah, I am, because it's going to help. Just believe in me, I promise. So I'm almost done writing this new version. And the React core team is like, boom, hooks. And seriously, it just killed everything, like functions as children, render props. I was like, yes. This like validated the exact approach I was trying to take. And so I was able to take this, this dinky component as, chilled in as a function thing and turn it into this awesome use table hook where you could just return whatever markup you wanted. It was fantastic. And we launched it. I launched it like ASAP as soon as it was done. React Table version 7 was off the hook.
He can't help himself.
But because of this inversion of control, I was able to close like 95% of the GitHub issues that we had, basically answering everybody with the same exact thing. You want to move the pagination? Do it. Do it yourself. I dare you. And I later learned that this pattern has a name. It's called Headless UI. And Headless UI is not the Tailwind product that you're thinking of, but it's conceptually, it is it's a process of taking all of your logic and your handlers and everything that kind of makes up the logical parts of your application and separating them out from your markup and your styles. I think that this encourages like a lot more capability, inversion of control, reusability. I think it results in higher quality code, almost in the same way that moving your state into a state machine does. So we launched version 7, and it was great. Took a little bit of time for people to convince people that they had to write their own tables, but once they tasted it, they loved the power. Okay, that went on for 2 years, and I even started to see some projects like GitHub Issues. The new beta is using React Table under the hood to render all their tables, but they're using their own components. It's all headless. So they get to keep using their component library and all their styles and everything they're used to using. I saw this and I was just like, I made it. React Table is done. Checking out. I'm going to go build React Query. I basically did that. Open source has a way, though, of kind of screwing with you. You're never done with open source, and neither are your users. I really wish I had sound for this next slide, but I'm pretty sure Paramount Pictures would like shut down the stream. Anyways, I'm over here enjoying my open source, and out of nowhere, it's like, boom, TypeScript users come out of nowhere.
I'm sorry, Tanner. I wasn't going to say it, but I will now because it's here. The reason I never used React Table is it didn't have TypeScript definitions built in, and the community ones weren't great. But that's why we're here. We're hearing all about the solution.
And they're just like, give us TypeScript, go, go, go. And literally I'm like, stay away. I had no idea what to do. And it's a true story. I was like closing issues and like hiding, like locking things. It's like, stay away, right? If anybody's ever done open source, like you have TypeScript coming at you, it is scary. Like if you don't know TypeScript, you're just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry, somebody else can do the types. I'm just gonna keep dinking around here.
I actually had a moment in the Discord yesterday that was like this. Somebody was asking a question about, like, I think it was custom type definitions for a reusable React query hook that used the Supabase SDK. And I got another wonderful reminder that I'm not actually good at TypeScript. I'm quite good at JavaScript. I would say I'm very good at JavaScript even. And TypeScript is very helpful for making sure I don't make dumb mistakes in my JavaScript. But the actual TypeScript part, like the crazy type definitions with the super deep generics and all those things, are well beyond my pay grade as a CEO, certainly. I do not get a lot of the crazier type stuff. I can make a weird generic and I can usually force it to do what I expect, but it takes me a lot of effort and I'm not good at it. Something I've been trying to push a little harder as like a big TypeScript advocate is that there's a burden that it lifts off of the user-facing dev. Like it's a huge burden to worry about the thing that you're calling the function with always being correct. But man, the burden wasn't eradicated with TypeScript. The burden was shifted to the framework maintainers and the library creators who now have to supply type definitions to describe correct behavior for the consumers. The magic of TypeScript is almost entirely in like user-facing dev land, and that has made it a lot easier for me to build an application that ships to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of users with confidence that it's correct. But that confidence isn't coming from TypeScript so much as the types that are provided by the pieces we're consuming. And it's important to recognize that as much as TypeScript has made most of our lives here easier, the framework maintainers like the Vercels and the Tanners of the world, certainly poor Ryan Carniato over on Solid.js as well, it has made life much harder for all of them. And make sure you shout out your favorite framework maintainers that have good type definitions, like the TRPCs and the now React tables and React query, certainly. The maintainers of those things are doing a lot of heavy lifting to make sure we can have the best, most correct experience possible as we build applications with the software that they made. So shout out all those maintainers who are lifting the burden of TypeScript to allow us as users of TypeScript to have an incredible experience. Yeah, JSDocs is not a good substitute. Totally with you, Cujo. If you're building software that's facing users and not like packages facing developers, it is almost inexcusable to not use TypeScript at this point. But that's another rant for another time.
I had no idea what I was doing. But it was even scarier because I knew TypeScript was almost inevitable. Like, it was coming for me. And at some point, I was going to have a reckoning. I resisted it so hard. I even bashed on it on Twitter. You know, we all do it. Everybody raise your hand. We all do it. But I started to notice that libraries using TypeScript generally were higher quality, more than mine. They had less issues. And honestly, the developers working on them and using TypeScript, it was imposter syndrome. Like, they were just rock stars. I don't know how they were doing it. Eventually, I had to accept it. It was time to level up. And it was a difficult decision because it meant slowing down to learn something new and scary. But I embraced it full scale. TypeScript really is.
I want to shout out Tanner in particular for this. He went from very unsure of TypeScript to all in on it in like a 6-month window. And I watched it happen from the outside. It was so cool to see him realize, specifically in like user land, how beneficial it was, and realize he had to eat that cost because it was so powerful what it enabled. And yeah, massive respect. Tanner was one of the, I don't want to say latest, but within like the big library folk that like have a presence in the open source web world, was later to the TypeScript bandwagon, but didn't let that slow him down at all. There's a lot of people who still just are dragging their feet. And yeah, shout out Tanner for jumping on the opportunity to be wrong and grow, because that's rare, especially for maintainers that are doing things as big and important as he is.
Decision because it meant slowing down to learn something new and scary. But I embraced it full scale.
Okay, I'm going to rewind again because somebody asked a good question. What's his work-life balance like? Surprisingly good. Tanner is very no bullshit with like, I'm with my family, I'm going to hang with them. He's a phenomenal dad. I have had many a time where we were like talking and then he had to run off to go help the family with stuff like that. Like, he puts all that first and foremost. And a lot of the open source work he does is specifically to help him be more effective at his job. So because of those things in particular, I think he, how do I put it? I think that he has found a really good balance for himself, and he's more focused on balancing between work and OSS and doesn't ever compromise on the family side. If you're looking for like a role model of balancing those things, he's up there for sure. Don't let it be me. I don't have a work-life balance. I have a work balance where I have like 5 jobs. Don't emulate me if you want to be happy. Emulate me if you want to be crazy and build cool shit too fast. He has a much better balance.
But I embraced it full scale. TypeScript really is amazing, and I promise this is not a TypeScript talk, but maybe like subliminal messaging. I started rewriting React table version 8 2 years ago with TypeScript, and I was like, I'll have a new version out in like 2 weeks. Like, it'll be like an alpha. 2 weeks, it'll be easy. No way. I did not know what I was doing. I had jumped into the deep end, and I had learned that writing libraries and TypeScript, this is like super advanced stuff. I didn't even know how to use TypeScript like as an app developer yet, and I was trying to write a library.
This is like learning how to use scissors in open heart surgery. Like, I can't even imagine going in this deep on the deep end of TypeScript to get started. And I guess shout out 12. Tanner, you went in hard and you came out stronger.
Library. I was in over my head. So I put the bat signal out onto Twitter, and I had some awesome people come to my rescue, offered their time and all of their energy towards helping me.
I did not deserve this. Oh. Gonna hide myself so you can see Ethan. That button. There. Yeah, shout out Ethan, Matt, Brandon, Dominique, and Alex. Fucking Tanner spelled my last name wrong. There's an E at the end. I can't complain. I'm still so hyped. Tanner and I only started chatting like a bit under a year ago. It's so cool to like, Guys, this talk was already so cool. I don't deserve to be in this. Thank you, Tanner.
You learn TypeScript in all the various ways, like looking at their patterns, live calls with everybody, support through maintenance. This is my TypeScript team, and I just wanted to thank them publicly because they're awesome. But they all basically said this. Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Actually, this is a good time to announce it. I actually have Matt coming on the show on Wednesday. So if it'll be a much earlier show, I'm aiming to be live around noon PST instead of the usual 2 to 3. So if you want to hear us rant all about TypeScript, super excited to have Matt on. I still have to write topics for that, so need to hop on that. But yeah, if you want a third of the TanStack TypeScript team, want to hear what we have to say, be here Wednesday.
They all basically said the same thing, though. Hold on your butts. Because library TypeScript is crazy. Oh, also, generics. They're going to rock your world. Like, they're going to make you cry, and then they're going to make you so happy. They're so cool. In fact, let's talk about generics really quick.
Notloop said, the Ronnie Mullen of TypeScript, that bio might be a non-insignificant part of why I'm bringing him on.
You so happy. They're so cool. In fact, let's talk about generics really quick. It's basically the process of taking something that would be typed statically, like a string, and giving your types variables so that you can pipe those types into your system and back out to your users. This is a really simple function, but you can also use multiple generics to extract information out of types and provide it back to the user in form of like autocomplete, right? Everybody loves that about VS Code, whether you're a TypeScript user or not. Library generics are on another level, right? Like, look at the create column function for React table. Like, that's 10 generics, and okay, let's run that through prettier. Okay, that's actually what we're gonna see, right? It's okay, we got some options and a column, and I don't know if anybody noticed, but like, we're not even like returning, we're not even doing the implementation yet. And this is what we have. Imagine like, okay, there's at least 30 functions in React table, and they all consume about the same amount of generics. Does anybody know how many lines of code that is?
Oh, God.
That's like 5 lines of code. It's like lines of
I'm baited. Let's check the source. Let's see the table core types. Jesus. This is just all the imports and exports for them. Okay, let's go to a random feature. Feature grouping. Oh, God. Oh, God. This is just for grouping. 69 lines. Oh, sorry. 79 lines before we... Wait, where's the cons? 90 lines before we get to the actual code. Yeah, it's just for one feature. Yeah, this being written by hand is nuts, but also... This is... Remember the thing I just said about the heavy lifting happening in library land? Here's your heavy lifting in library land. This shit sucks to write. And shout out number 15 at this point to Tanner for the work here. This is why TypeScript is so good, because someone else is doing the work for us.
Of code, it's lines of types. This was something that I had a hard time grasping with TypeScript. Like, why am I doing this, right? Yeah, the implementation wasn't even done. So I was pretty sad, but I had this idea. Anybody else run into this situation with JavaScript? It's like, holy cow, that's a lot of arguments. What do? You put it into an options bag. Boom, options bag, bagging it. So we can do the same thing with generics. We can take all these generics, pull them out into a generic type, and reuse it as a variable. This is something very new, and I haven't seen it a lot in the wild. I hope it pans out because it's amazing. After making this change, I was able to access all of my generics like I can a JavaScript object. It's called generic maps. And I don't know why it's called generic maps. I think it should be called generic bags. But I was able to reduce the source code of React table by 70%
we were looking at the 70% reduced version. We're not even seeing the worst of it.
Implementing this pattern. I'll probably have to talk more about this in like a TypeScript talk. But this was the point where I started feeling confident. I was like, okay, I'm dangerous, but I know a little bit of generics. Like, I'm feeling good. All the great things about TypeScript started coming out. All the refactoring, the less bugs, better design. I was able to take all of the things that are normally just stuck in your brain that are going to fizzle away if you walk away for 2 weeks from your project, shove them into TypeScript, and just like sleep at night because I'm not remembering.
This is such an underrated part of TypeScript. Y'all know me. I write a lot of code. I actually make it a point to go through and archive and delete old repos that I'm never going to touch. I have 113 repositories right now. Most of these, I also clean up forks. So there's like 3 forks in there. The rest are things I started. I write a lot of code, and most of it is bad. Most of it is wrong. And sometimes I need to touch it again 6 months to 2 years later. One of the best parts about TypeScript, even as a solo dev, and I hear this a lot, which is, I'm a solo dev. Do I really need TypeScript? I know what I'm doing. Yeah, but do you know what you were doing 6 months ago? Because I don't. I don't have that type of memory, especially at like the amount of shit I am building. I can't remember exactly how I did any of these projects. So it'd be really nice if I can get a red squiggly line when I'm revisiting something 2 years later and do something wrong. I have projects in here. I have some big projects in here. Chrome Tana is probably the biggest. This was a huge Chrome extension back in the day. I don't think this link works anymore. Yeah, it doesn't. This Chrome extension still has an insane number of users. 100,000 still, which is hilarious because I haven't touched this in years. But this project is an old jank Webpack thing and doesn't use TypeScript. Actually, I might have started. No, it's still JavaScript. And I moved it to Preact recently-ish. And somebody fixed Bing on it for me. But like, I haven't actually touched this like meaningfully for a very long time. I did a V3 in 2020 and never finished it. Before then, it was 2017. I never shipped the updates. And that's because it's in JavaScript, and I don't know how it works anymore. And if I make a change, it's going to break. I am certain of that. I don't want to worry about that. JavaScript is guaranteeing that somebody in the future is going to either break something or choose not to touch something. And I am disinterested in that, just on a personal level. As such, even if your reason for not using TypeScript is you're a solo dev, you're also, what you're saying there and what I'm hearing is I throw out my code when I'm done. Because if you've never wished you had TypeScript on a project that you're revisiting in 6 months, then none of your projects have ever been worth revisiting. And at that point, sure, go use Brainfuck. Because nobody's using your stuff, you're not touching it after. Go live in your world. Have fun. Anyways.
Remembering, dependency trees of my code. I think it's a necessity. There's so much more we need to talk about with TypeScript. I just can't do it. It's a winning technology. Take it from someone who was a full 180 from last year. You need to try it. You need to use it. Not a lot of time left, but there's one more thing I want to talk about that is a little bit of battle story with React Table, but it's also the future. I just want to reassure everybody right now, I promise, I love React, okay? I'm here to stay. But we would all be very naive to think that React is some superior species and it's the only thing capable of producing amazing apps and UI, right? I know we love it, but we need to take it off the pedestal once in a while. There are other frameworks out there, Solid, Vue, Svelte.
The Angular in the corner is hilarious. Rant time. Rant time. I'm going to preempt him a little bit on this one. Something I talk about a lot is the modularity of React. I think that we're in the midst of a modular design revolution that React helped kickstart. Originally with components, where all of a sudden I could npm install Material UI and have components with behaviors contained in a way that I could reuse them and distribute them to be reused across one or even many code bases. Components gave us a really good way to take a part of our user interface and abstract it so it can be reused, made into a generic, and so much more. I think hooks did the same thing for state. Hooks are why React has stuck around longer with more hype than any UI framework or solution before it. Hooks let you abstract data and state the same exact way components are abstracting UI and logic, but just the logic, not the UI. I think that abstraction has let us do some really cool things. The same way Material UI was trivial to add to React, React Query became trivial to add as well through the hooks like abstraction pattern. Since then, lots of other frameworks have built their own store solutions, hook-like solutions to allow for logic to be abstracted. But not a lot of developers have taken advantage of it. React is still the solution you go to if you're looking for modular libraries and solutions to build up what you need specifically. Vue is trying to catch up with Nuxt. Svelte is kind of trying to catch up with things like SvelteKit and the Svelte Storage API. But React is so far ahead, having multiple solutions for SSR, everything from Fresh to Next.js to Remix to Vite plugin SSR, which should work for other things too, but is React focused at the time. React has so many state solutions, from Zustand to Jodi to Recoil to obviously Redux to MobX. All of these are due to how modular and simple at its core React is. These other frameworks try to solve more problems than React does, and in doing such, have locked the community out of solving those problems in competitive, new, and interesting ways. But the tide has started to turn due to how powerful hooks are. When I do this rant, and I've done this rant a few times now, one of my go-to examples has always been React Query, because it is such a powerful example of a common problem, which is interfacing with asynchronous code in a synchronous web framework, and solves it super elegantly because hooks provided the right abstraction to do such. I love React Query for that reason, and for a long time, I have asserted that React is the place where you can do things like that. Tanner, the person who did that, now disagrees and is going out of his way to make as many of his solutions work with as many other frameworks as possible, because he doesn't want to contribute to the everybody using React focus. He wants to allow developers to have that quality of tooling regardless of which framework they choose. And I have a ton of respect for that. I am seeing specifically in like Solid and to an extent in Svelte land that the abstractions are at a point where you can build good stuff that is generic across frameworks. Vue is going to be harder to convince me. Angular, you never will. But it's awesome to see Tanner proving me wrong by getting his React-focused solutions out of React land. Let's let him talk more about it.
Apps and UI, right? I know we love it, but we need to take it off the pedestal once in a while. There are other frameworks out there. Solid, Vue, Svelte. All right. Come on in. You know, I think that they deserve tables as well. I think they deserve a great table that I could build in React. And, you know, in the time-honored tradition of pushing the limit at the last moment, I decided to take React table and go agnostic. So React table is now called TanStack table, and it's going to ship with all adapters.
Angular coming
all
soon.
Frameworks. Angular. Yeah. You want to work on the Angular adapter? Come talk to me. Okay?
No one wants to work on an Angular adapter.
And this normally would be very difficult, but apparently standing on the shoulders of headless UI makes it a lot easier. We're already separating out markup and styles, and that makes up a lot of the differences between a lot of our frameworks out of the gate. And it turns out we just needed a few adapters to sit in the middle, kind of wire up the internals of reactivity and context. This is the solid table adapter. That's it. And all
that's really cool.
Basically look exactly the same, even React. So the last 5 years have been really interesting with TanStack table. 2 years of it devoted just to implementing and learning TypeScript. It was crazy. There's really only one thing left to do. Should we do it?
Is he going to push it? Oh, my God. Yes. Oh, my God.
Wait.
All right.
We're not even connected to Wi-Fi. I'll do it after the talk. It's okay. There's also some other things I want to talk about really quick.
He's the
In the next
best.
30 days, we're going to be converting over to TanStack Query, Virtual, and Ranger, and the rest of the libraries are coming soon. I wanted to really thank everybody who's helped out with these projects. Anybody virtual,
Virtual's heavily underrated. It's a virtual list for every framework now. So if you have a bunch of data and you don't want to render a 2,000 long item list, it lets you render the things that are visible and have the rest ready to go. It's super cool that that's a generic now. That felt like something that was very framework specific, and seeing him prove me wrong was really cool on that.
there's a lot of maintainers and contributors working, especially in other frameworks, and I think that's really awesome. Also, all of my GitHub sponsors, wouldn't have been able to do it without them. I wanted to talk about one sponsor, it's brand new in particular, that you wouldn't expect, but AG.
I love when all of the things I start with and like say just to like add context, he puts them all in. I didn't need to be here. I did not need to react to this, Tanner. I love you, but I could have just watched this and then told my audience to watch it. I'm just sitting here smiling. I don't know how much value I'm bringing, but this is a great talk.
Grid. Normally, TanStack table, it's kind of weird saying that now, and AG Grid have been viewed as competitors. You know, it turns out that that's not really the case. They're so very different. They solve uniquely different problems with very different paradigms. Depending on your use case, you might want to use either one. Just like I, at one point, used AG Grid and loved it. We came to this realization, and we knew that it was time to work together. So today, I'm announcing that AG Grid is the first TanStack OSS partner with TanStack Table. And together, we're going to work as hard as we can to educate everybody in the ecosystem, regardless of framework, how to build better tables, when to use each tool, and we're going to share as much knowledge as we can across this chasm.
The real competition here is TanStack and AG Grid versus Retool.
And make sure that we can all be friends. So you can read more about it on tanstack.com. That's it.
What a phenomenal talk. Fantastic work, Tanner. Yeah, don't have too much else to say. Thanks, y'all, for watching that. As you know, I'm a huge fan of Tanner, and it's so cool seeing him prove me wrong directly, constantly, both in a talk and in his open source work. I couldn't be more hyped on the development of TanStack, and yeah, if you're not already subscribed, fix that, And I know you're not, because over 60% of my YouTube viewers are not subscribers yet. So hit that red button, helps us a lot in the algorithm. Also, leave a comment letting me know what I should talk about more in future videos. Helps me a ton as I plan ahead for my streams and try and get my content good and ready ahead of time. Thank you again so much, and shout out to Idez for all the editing. He's been killing it.